I'm going to build a little tutorial on how to reconcile and quality control data entry into Pulse. We want to start by logging into the Pulse account, and we want to produce a list of the dose transactions, and I would suggest we do this on a weekly basis. So let's go back in time just a little bit, and let's do the week of the June 9th to June 13th. I do not think we need to include the weekends. We're not adding anything on the weekends. So June 9th to June 13th. You shouldn't have to, but select all locations over here. That should get us all of the transactions for the day. Say search, and we should then get a list of injections. We're seeing concerningly some warnings here, but for a total of 284 entries. And we're seeing both Huntsville and Bryan entries, which seems correct. So then we want to save that as an Excel file. And I would immediately go here. This is going to appear in your downloads folder. I would immediately go here and rename this because this all gets very confusing. Say Pulse, and then the week. And I would even go so far as to create a new folder. Again, just to keep all of this stuff straight. So let's drop that into that folder. And so now we have our transactions from Pulse. Next step is going to be to log into MD Office. And we'll need two reports from here. And there's a couple of nuances on the reports that you need to pay a little bit of attention to. It's easier to manage the reports unless you have them all bookmarked by looking for their number. First report we want is 0731. And we want to do this for the appropriate date range down here, regular report. We want to base all of this on service date. Very important, service date. If they get entered later, it really messes you up. Sorting is not important. This box is incredibly important. So we'll want to be sure that we select for 67028 and any versions of that. So again, the 50 we want to include, and then you want to go down to your J codes and select anything that we need here. So you want to select ILEA HD. You can only select 25 here, so you need to be a little bit judicious about the ones you select. We will go through this list twice. We want Vibismo, access solutions and sample. We want everything to appear here if we can. Again, these are not necessarily required, but sometimes there's an issue where we're billing something under means that we don't, that are not altogether clear. So going from the bottom of the J codes here, going back through the list, you want Avastin and Avastin Medicare. We do not use Jetria. You want to hit Utique. There are no Alluvian samples. Alluvian, there are Ozurdex samples. We want to include them in here. Avastin for Anthem is not important. I would hit it anyway. The antibiotics, voriconazole, etc., not a particularly big deal. Visudyne might be nice to add, but we haven't done a Visudyne in a little while. Kenalog, we do not really track this way. Vancomycin would be nice, but again, not essential here. We will be able to whittle down the number of Lucentices we have here, but it's a little obscure on how we're doing this currently, so I would check them all. They're far more important to track than your Vabismos. And I would like to check a little bit more on the Ileas. We haven't run any Ilea samples. Recently, but let's go with this list for right now. Say okay, but that is where we will potentially get trouble, and we need to watch for that. So this is our list here. This will give us a report. We say preview. And then we want to export this report in Excel file. And again, naming these as to what you're doing is really handy because it gets confusing as heck. You will often get this error. I have opened a ticket with MD Office and I have not gotten any love, but even with the error, now we see in our MD Office folder on our C drive that we have this report that was today, and it is the report that we just requested. So even though it said it was an error, it actually generated the report. We want to do the same with another report, 2059, and this is for the diagnosis codes. Again, we're going to hit the appropriate week. Again, based on service date, that's super important. We look at the codes requested. It is a slightly different list, but I feel it is still appropriate, and we'll see that later if we capture everything that we want. Again, we preview and just generates us another report that looks differently. If this report had contained citedness information on it, this would be the only one we would need, but alas, it does not. Again, number these. Otherwise, you will be sad later. You get the same kind of error. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. If you're unable to check on anything, it means it's still waiting, timing out for something. It may give you another error here. And at this point, you are compelled to wait until it times out. Once it gives you the second error, again, always watching in your MD Office folder. And we see here the previous report is present, but the new report is not. So we will try the same thing again. And now, this time, as if by magic, we have our second report, accounting patient insurance claim details. And this is the ones that we need. So we're going to copy those, go over to our previous folder that we created here and put it all in the same place. So at this point, we are done with what we want from MD Office, and now we will be massaging these transactions to give us something that we can use. If we open the Pulse document, we'll find a great amount of information. Much of it we don't need. As we go from left to right, the treatment date is useful, as is the name, as is the patient ID. The manufacturer and manufacturer code are not useful. I delete them. The drug name is useful, but the serial number is not. The dose number is. Lot number, shelf, expiration date, purchase order type, and cost are not useful here, and I delete those. The I treated is very useful. Sometimes who did it, which physician did it, can be useful. The department is always blank currently, and then the remainder of the columns after the location are not useful. And so I get rid of all of those. This leaves us with a reduced data set. I'll go ahead and save that. And I'm saving these now to injection logs, and we're going to put that in a folder on the share folder. So that others can find this stuff once you're done with it. So we save that one. Now we're going to open the next one, which is the procedures by patient. And again, this requires some massaging to make it useful. As we read across the individual transaction here on Robin Adams, looking there, the CPT code is on the first one. What we really want from this is the sidedness information. The next row down gives us the drug code. We would like those to be together because we otherwise do not need the procedure code. So I insert a column here and I copy one more time with feeling, copy this column with the modifier. Copy it, and then I'm going to paste it with a 1-row offset. That puts a line with the sidedness information along with the drug. And so now we can get rid of this line with the procedure information on all of our patients and effectively reduce the size of the spreadsheet by half. And we can do this here by going and saying data. We're going to sort, and we're going to sort by our column N, which contains the ICD-9 code and the CPT code, but we want the ICD-9 code, and then by column B, which will give us an alphabetical list of patients. Now to clean things up, we run through here and get rid of these rows. We want to preserve the ones with the J codes on them. That gives us the drug information. And then we can eliminate these rows because those are no longer useful to us. Now, we have a set of J codes and sidedness information. If you look here in column G, there's the sidedness. Here is the drug. What is useful to do at this point in time is to insert a couple of rows because we'll be pasting into these columns, and if we have a discrepancy in the number of units entered in the different systems, then you will overwrite data if you don't give yourself some space. Now coming down here, the J799 codes, 7999, and the J9035 are all Avastin. Pulse does not separate the Avastins by J code, so now we want to sort these by patient name to give us one set for all of the Avastins. So now we can clean this spreadsheet up a little bit too. We can delete the sex of the patient, which is not useful. You want to protect the account number. That's this column. Then the claim and the modifier are not useful. We're doing this all for the sidedness. I would retain provider and location, and it's really all just for later troubleshooting. Facility is always blank. Payer and plan are not useful for us at this point, so we delete. And the charges are only useful if we're doing bilateral treatments, and that shows up anyway. So I go ahead and delete those. We'll save this spreadsheet here also to the share folder on the network. Injection logs under now, under June, under Pulse Audit, under the date, and we'll go ahead and save that there. So now we can put these two spreadsheets next to each other and then try to integrate them. And we want to try to put these next to these transactions in Pulse. Let's look at these transactions quickly. We have not sorted this one, so we're going to want to sort the Pulse transactions by medication type. So we can go data, sort, column D, which is our drug, and then column B, which gives us an alphabetical patient list. And it looks like that has been successful. We have our Avastins here, starting with Mary Aguirre, and we have our Avastins here, starting with Mary Aguirre. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. So that you can see this all at once. So we have the Avastins. We want to copy all of the Avastins here, and then paste them into this MD Office spreadsheet. We're going to do the same with the Eilias. Quickly scanning down, it looks like we have the same number on Avastins in both programs, so that's great. Eylea, we will do the same and paste that here. Then Lucentis's, we may have to resort this because Pulse breaks them up by different type. But we will enter this into here, and then we have Vabysmos 2777. And then our Azure Dex. I'm not getting the full transaction on these. A little bit cramped. Okay. But cramped. We'll do this one more time. I know this is extremely small, but I need to get the whole column. So this is Vabismo here. We will copy and paste that here. Very tiny, very tiny. We want to copy all of the Lucentises. And paste them here. I was not getting the patient name is the problem. And we'll scroll up just a little bit and find the alias. No, I'm not reading this very well, but I can tell the difference in size. So now we have a spreadsheet onto which we can see the patient name, the sidedness data in both programs. Here's left and here's left there. And we are fortunate in that all of the numbers match up. You'll notice on our Lucentis here, I forgot to copy somebody here. Didn't get our Azure dexes. So here are our Azure dexes. And I'm off one column here. So you would notice up at the top that our Lucentises don't look like they are in order. And because they are combining both 0.5s and 0.3s, so again, we're going to want to sort this column now by column J. And now this should give us a good correspondence of names. If you look across, these names all seem to agree. So now we want to compare lefts and rights. We can hide these, not delete, but hide them. And now we want to compare lefts and rights. Now you can just look through them if you want to, but I feel that at some level you might have some errors here. So what I like to do is to find and replace, identify all the right, and replace with RT. And then we can search for RT and look at these rows and make sure that they all agree. And we are looking great. Eddie Epler looks like there's an error in the data, so we'll have to do him manually. But all of our others correspond exactly, and just by looking at the highlights, then you can very quickly go through and make sure that rights and lefts. So we did really well that time.